Hello and welcome to the second episode of Girl in Sheep's Clothing. I'm Claire and I'm coming to you from Melbourne in Australia. This is my second episode and it's a special one where I'm going to be showing you everything I knit for my baby. So my baby boy is now 2 years old. In this video I'm going to show you everything that I knit for him from 0 to 12 months. And most of these things I knit for him while I was pregnant. Okay, let's get into it. The first thing I knit for him when I found out that I was pregnant is this adorable tiny little cardigan. The pattern is Playdate by Tin Can Knits. And it's so small. It was the smallest size of that pattern. The pattern is worked from the bottom up and then you pick up for the sleeves and knit the sleeves in the round and join the little neckband. The yarn I used for this is some We Love Knitting hand-dyed yarn that I still had left over from when I had a hand-dyed yarn business. And I thought it would be a really good yarn to use for a baby project because it's washable. In saying that, there is, I think, an extent to which you can wash wool, even superwash wool. This one is looking a little bit worse for wear and I think it's shrunk a little bit. I'm not sure though, it just looks so tiny, but I think he must have been this tiny at some point. It's hard to imagine he did wear this. But yeah, I think it's shrunk a tiny little bit. It does look a little bit felted. Not overly, but just a little bit. It's been through the dryer many times. Newborn clothing isn't the easiest thing to look after. I mean, you're not gonna be wanting to hand wash your tiny little newborn clothes when you've just given birth, and you know, husbands are notorious for throwing things in the dryer. But luckily it's still wearable. It was really nice to bring home my little baby boy wearing something that I knit for him, because it was quite a while before we were able to even put him in any clothes because he was in, the NICU, so he didn't really wear clothes for most of the first month. So it was just really special to when I first got to put him in something that I made for him. And yeah, thinking back to when I first found out that I was pregnant and this was the thing I knit, thinking about my little baby to be, and it was just a really special one for me. The little buttons that I put on I got from the op shop, or the thrift store if you're American. We call it the op shop in Australia. They are just cute little green buttons. One of them went missing. I wonder what he did with it. The pattern is by Tin Can Knits and it's really well written, as all of their patterns are. It's a drop sleeve, or a modified drop sleeve. There are some stitches that you decrease as you, because it's worked from the bottom up, and you decrease some stitches as you come in for the armhole, and then it's just a straight armhole, and then the sleeves are picked up around the armhole and knit out in a tiny little tube, which isn't the most fun thing to knit because it's so small, this sleeve. I wasn't able to knit it on my small circular, my little sleeve needles. I had to do magic loop, which isn't that big a deal, but it's not my favorite way to knit sleeves. But I was just really happy to be knitting a tiny little cardigan for my baby boy to be at the time. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next thing I knit for my baby while I was pregnant is another Tin Can Knits pattern, and this one is the Gramps cardi. This one I think is just so adorable. he got so much wear out of this. It's knit in a really soft, beautiful merino wool, which is non-superwash, which was a little bit hard to maintain for a little baby, but this one was knit in not the smallest size, I think the 6 months size. By then I was in a bit of a groove and I was able to start hand washing things again because he was not so tidy anymore. He wasn't throwing up as much and it was fine to have a non-superwash yarn. So this has only been hand washed and it's stayed in really good condition. The yarn is a hand-dyed yarn by Knitcraft and Knittery. I'm not sure if they're still selling yarn. I'll link to the yarn in the description, and I've got the details for this on my Ravelry. This pattern was really nice to knit. It's a top-down raglan, and I love knitting raglans. They're just so nice and simple. So you start from the top down, you work your way down the body and do the ribbing, and then you pick up for the sleeves. So you pick up for the sleeves and knit in the round, and then you pick up for the button band, and the button band is done in a really interesting way. I really enjoyed the construction for this. There's a special technique in the pattern that makes it so that this collar folds over really beautifully. I've never seen anything like that in a pattern before, and I just absolutely love the way that the collar sits. It's so cute, and a tiny little baby in a grandpa cardigan is like the most adorable thing I've ever seen. I actually made myself a cardigan in the same yarn, so we were wearing matching cardigans for a while. So yeah, overall this was a pleasure to knit. He wore it a lot. He looked really cute in it, and I would definitely knit this again. I'm gonna keep this one in case we have another little baby because I just love it so much. If we don't have another baby, I'll have to gift it to somebody special because it has to live on. Alright, so the next thing I knit for my little boy when I was still pregnant, and I think at this point I knew that it was a boy, so it's a onesie. Now this is probably the cutest thing ever, but he never actually wore it, which is such a shame. I really enjoyed knitting it. I forget the pattern name. It's Alvin's something. It's in Norwegian. I used Google Translate and I just had to knit this. It's beautiful. It's so stinking cute. Knitted onesie, and I really like the pattern. It's a rib, but quite a few stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 knit stitches and then a purl ridge, so that creates this beautiful fabric here. And the reason why he didn't wear this is because unfortunately the neck hole is a little bit wide. I didn't really notice this while I was knitting it because at the time I was still only pregnant and I didn't have a baby, and I didn't really think about it that baby shoulders are just tiny, and this neckline is so wide it's almost like the size of a neckline that I would wear. And I'm not sure if that was just something that I did wrong, possibly because I had to translate the pattern into English, or if it's the design. But yeah, if I knit this again, I would definitely be making the neckline a lot smaller, like even half the width, because it just fell off his shoulders. And then by the time that he was a bit bigger, enough so that the neckline would be okay. He was too big for the onesie. So yeah, that was a bit of a shame. If anyone has a baby with giant shoulders, let me know and I'll send this to you. maybe I'll unpick it and I could fix the neck. It's got short rows and it's like a nice shape. Everything about it is great. It's other than it just being too wide. So I think because it was knit from the bottom up, I could unravel it and just keep going with the raglan, make the raglan a little bit deeper potentially, and keep going until the neckline is smaller. But yeah, I'll think about that. There's no hurry. It can just stay in my little box of baby knits. The yarn that I used for this I got from Spotlight, one of our big box stores that we have here in Australia. It's a 10-ply worsted weight cotton. So it's called Abbey Road Kung Fu Cotton, and this is in the colour dark blue. I think it's a really nice cotton actually. It's really soft. It was really inexpensive. I got it on sale as well, and I don't often shop there, but sometimes they have these great sales, and cotton I thought would be really good for a baby garment and that I could throw it in the wash and the dryer without it felting. Unfortunately, we didn't really get a chance to find out how well it wears because he never wore it, but I will definitely work with this yarn again. Okay, so the next thing I knit for the little guy while I was still pregnant as well. Or was I? Yeah, I was still pregnant while I knit this. This is a tiny, beautiful little seed stitch top down raglan. Now this there's no pattern for because I wrote the pattern for it and haven't released it yet. This one that I have here has been worn a lot and is very well loved. It's actually a little bit felted. It went through the dryer, it went through the washing machine many times. I think that this one was cursed or something because literally every time I put it on him he spewed up straight away. So the yarn is by Millimere and it's a superfine merino, and I thought that it was a superwash, but it doesn't look like it was because of how much this is felted. So the pattern that is yet to be released is a simple raglan, and it has these buttons along one side of the raglan, and I've made it so that both raglan lines are the same width, so the button band just really blends in and looks exactly the same as the raglan on this side. And then I thought that if I was to potentially turn this into a pattern that I release, I can have the larger sizes without the buttons and it be the same overall look. It has some short row shaping in the back of the neck, and it's just in a seed stitch. You work from the top down in the round and then you pick up the sleeves and knit. It's a really simple one. The hardest thing about designing this was figuring out how to do the short rows with the seed stitch and then write that down, which I have done. So I really do hope that I release this as a pattern because I think it's really cute and I would love to see it out there in the world. We'll see how I go. Let me know if this is something you would knit. I need the encouragement. Okay. The next thing I knit for him, also while I was still pregnant, is this little pair of pants. Now, this one I designed as well, but haven't written down the instructions because I don't think it's going to become a pattern. Well, if it does, it's going to need some serious modifications, because although this is adorable, it just doesn't fit very well on a baby's body. Because I didn't have a baby yet, I didn't really know. I just thought I'll make the top quite wide so that it can fit over a nappy, and it did, but then the waist was much too wide and they just fell down. They wouldn't stay up. So it would need some kind of shaping to bring the waist in, or a tie or some elastic. Yeah, something needs to change for this pattern, but I do think it's really cute, and I like the way I managed to get the stripes to all line up really well for the increases and everything. So I did put a fair bit of work into this, and it's a shame that he never got to wear them, but hopefully eventually I can turn this into a pattern and make another pair for another baby. Let me know if you think this would make a cute pattern and whether I should write it up and modify it so that it fits better. And I thought that these would go well together. They could be a little outfit. And yeah, so this is the same yarn, the Millimia Extra Fine Merino, and this one is beautiful still. Because it hasn't been washed, so there's quite a difference between the one that's been through the washing machine and the dryer and the nice new one. So if you do use this yarn, I definitely wouldn't be machine washing it, or maybe it was the combo of the machine washing and the dryer, I'm not sure, but I would hand wash this yarn in the future. Okay, so the next thing I knit for him was this tiny little pair of socks, and I only have one left. I don't know where the other one went. I think that's just newborn baby socks. They disappear. Babies aren't really that good at keeping socks on their feet. I made quite a few little pairs of socks and I tried to find them all, and this was all I could find. So they're out there in the world somewhere. But yeah, he didn't really wear them much, even though they're so cute. So cute. They just weren't that practical. I don't know how useful knitted socks are for a newborn baby. We most of the time just use the little feet on the onesies that you can fold over, because it's so good to be able to change between sock or not sock just by flipping a thing over the foot, and they don't go missing that way. So yeah, I think that they still would make a great gift for somebody that has a baby, just because of how cute they are. I think the cuteness level makes it worth it for, you know, the impracticality, and they're so small and so easy to make that it doesn't matter that much if you lose them. It's not that big a deal. It used like no yarn at all, basically. I just had some scraps left over from my hand dyed yarn from We Love Knitting, and I just used little scraps and bits and pieces for all of the little socks. So it was just a scrappy project, and it would be great for a photo shoot, or yeah, just for around the house. But yeah, not the most practical, but so adorable. Okay, the next thing I made for him was a little pair of leggings. So these are so cute. They have tiny little feet, little footed leggings. These I started knitting for him while he was in hospital and I was at home, and I thought that knitting something for him would be a good way to connect with him or bond with him while I couldn't be with him. So these ones are really special to me. They're made in a really soft superfine merino by Debbie Bliss, a super wash merino, so they can go through the washing machine. They didn't end up getting that much wear because they just weren't long enough in the torso section. I thought that they looked long enough for sure, but it ended up, once they stretched out and went over the nappy, they were quite short, and they kind of fell down as well. So I didn't use a pattern, I just made this up, and I was really proud of how I did the increases in the 2x2 rib, and I thought that that looked really nice, and I had really high hopes for them. But yeah, I don't know the trick to making the perfect baby pants. If you do, let me know. The next thing I knit for him is a beautiful cot blanket. So this one is super squishy and warm and just so cute. It's really simple, just garter stitch, and this has been used a lot. We used it in the pram and in his cot and just for naps. And I took it to the NICU to leave there with him while he was in, just to make the space feel a little bit more homely or comfortable. And so this one is really sentimental to me as well, and it's just lovely. The yarn is possibly my favourite yarn ever, Durarum Natura Gilead. It's a French merino wool, and it's sustainably produced. So I have to ship it from France, so that adds to its carbon footprint and makes it a bit less sustainable. But if you're in France, this would be a really sustainable yarn, or even in Europe. It's a woolen spun yarn, and it's really lofty and warm and rustic for a merino. So I think it's a great yarn if you like rustic yarn but you can't handle itch, then this one is just fantastic, because it has that toothiness, as in the capability to have memory and be lofty and have all those woolly qualities without the scratch factor. And now it's not like soft. No, it is soft, but it's not smooth. So it's not like a superwash merino that's smooth. It's soft and it grips to itself like a good wool. So I think it's kind of the best of both worlds, and my baby loved it, and he didn't have any issue with the itch, and he, even now as a toddler, he wears this yarn with no problem, and he would be able to tell me now if he didn't like it. So, and my husband, who is very sensitive to itch, likes it too. So they have a really beautiful colour palette, and I thought that these two colours would be really cute for a little boy. So there's no pattern for this. I just cast on as many stitches as I thought would be wide enough, and I kind of just winged it, and I knit in garter stitch until I'd used up a ball, and then I knit the next stripe as an entire ball as well, and the same thing continuing. So it's just a big garter stitch rectangle. Here's another little, just tiny cute little thing I made for him, a tiny pair of baby mittens. They don't have thumbs, they're just something I made up as a little mitt that I thought he could wear. He didn't really wear these. I thought that they would be good because, you know, babies often scratch their faces, and people like to put them in mittens or put socks over their hands, but because he was in NICU, it didn't really come up. And yeah, we didn't really use these, but I think they would be a cute one, and yeah, still had fun making them. Okay, so that's everything that I knit for my baby from 0 to 12 months. I've knit a lot more things for him since, because he's now 2 years old, but I might put that in another video. I have a couple of bonus things that I want to share with you, things that I crocheted for him. So this one, it's a cot blanket. It's a granny square, just lots and lots of granny squares all stitched together. The yarn I used for this is Fiddlesticks Finch, and the colours are ecru for the white. I can't remember the other colour names, sorry. I do have that information in my Ravelry. This was a great project for a new mum. It was just so simple and something that I could work on whenever I had a moment, and it felt like a really manageable task because you work the squares one at a time, and I just kept working squares until I felt like I had enough. And what I thought I would do with this was make it the size of a cot blanket, and I got enough yarn so that once he outgrows the cot, I can turn it into a single bed size. So I've still got the rest of the yarn that I can continue making squares and attach onto this blanket to expand it so that he can keep using it as he grows up. I thought that would be a really cool idea. He has used this a fair bit, and it's because it's cotton, it's really easy to wash. It's been through the wash a few times and it held up really well. I put a lot of effort into weaving my ends in securely because I was a little bit paranoid that it would come undone because of how often I thought it would need to be washed, and I'm really glad that I did that, so nothing has come undone yet. It's still looking just as good as when I first made it. That has happened to me in the past because I designed a sweater that is made out of granny squares in a wool, and those unraveled on me, which was a little bit of a shame because of how much effort it was to stitch together granny squares in the shape of a sweater. So because I'd been burned before, I was really careful with this one. The next thing I crocheted for my baby, and the final thing that I knit or crocheted for him in the first year, is this whale. So I made this when he was about 2 or 3 months old, and I remember him sitting on my lap, like, you know, you sit with your knees up with the baby facing you, and I would be crocheting this and he would be sitting there babbling and talking to me and baby talk while I'd be crocheting this for him, and that was a really nice memory too. I thought that it would go well in his room, and it was so big, it was like almost the size of him while I was making it. The pattern is just so cute, and it was relatively easy. I'm not a super confident crocheter, I'm definitely more of a knitter, but I found this pretty easy for a crochet toy, and the construction was really simple. You just knit the blue part flat, and then, you crochet it. You crochet the blue part, then you crochet the white part, and then you sew them together and then stuff it. And I got these cute little eyes. I just love this, it's so cute. And he isn't the biggest fan of soft toys. He's not the kind of baby that has gotten really attached to any soft toys, but maybe he will when he's older, and hopefully it'll be something special to him, but if not, it doesn't matter, it's special to me. Well, thank you so much for watching this special episode of A Girl in Sheep's Clothing. I'm really grateful to everyone that's subscribed already. I can't believe I have subscribers after just posting my first episode not even a week ago. I don't know how you found me. If you came over here from We Love Knitting, hello again. It's really good to see you again. I know that I've been gone for such a long time. I was home for quite a while with my baby, and then I went back and started working at a local yarn store, which was a great experience. But now I've gone back to study. So I'm studying textile design and really absolutely loving it. I'm in my summer break at the moment, so I've got lots of time to be working on this podcast. So I'm really excited to be doing this. It's so fun to be able to share what I've been working on with you guys who are interested, because I'm sure a lot of you know that knitting and crochet isn't exactly a mainstream pastime that you can relate to other people with. So this is just a really nice outlet for me to be able to talk about yarn, knitting, and other crafty projects, which I'm hoping to share with you soon. So thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you to my first subscribers. I would love it if you would leave a comment and say hi so that I feel like I'm talking to somebody, because at the moment, being a new channel, I'm just talking to a void, the internet, and I have no idea who you are. So if you would like to jump into the comments and say hello, I would really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day and happy knitting.